Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now Captain Finance himself, Sully.
In all his splendor with his cape on as we start the Big Biz Show. I hope everyone's having a great day. Thanks for being along for the ride from the Loft 100 Studios. As the big announcer voice just said, Costa, Mary, Godwin, Greg Totteroff.
If I have a cape on,
And the captain.
I'm doing a Neil Diamond tribute concert.
Did he ever wear he wasn't a caper, though.
I don't think so.
Oh, I think,
No.
yes, he had a cape, but he did We're Coming to America. What was that, James Brown?
James Brown, had a cape.
And
also
saying
220,
coming to America.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
But
but you were close.
Yeah, Liberace
On
had a
both.
cape.
Neil Diamond also had a song called Coming to America.
He did.
Can I ask you this? Every person in this room, with the exception of Greg and Devin, have crappy hair. Why aren't we the norm? Why is he the norm?
I don't know. He's had that.
Greg's got such great hair. No, he doesn't. We have great hair.
Mike, are you going to let him talk to you like that? I think your hair looks great, buddy.
I do too.
Yeah.
I just glued it on.
Don't you let him talk to you like that.
This whole show is like Greg's never thought about what he eats. He's never thought about what waistline he is.
Never.
He's never thought
Since
about
I've known him.
Alan's hair. And you are jonesing on when's the next meal.
Pretty much. Yeah. When can I eat again? Well, the DTT, greatest in the world, by the way.
Oh,
Can you give us a little
Well,
something?
two of the three comb their hair with a washcloth.
Brian's got beautiful hair.
Hey, Trace, can you take your hat off?
Trace used to have
Yeah,
hair.
James, can you take your hat off?
Mr. East.
They don't have combs, they got washcloths.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Smooth as sexy.
It is high speed, low drag.
That's right.
Is there some point we're just going to give up? Like, I'm just going to give up.
I'm getting there.
Haven't yet?
I think, yeah.
No.
I thought
Wow! She waits 700 shows and then delivers a dump truck. Boom! Wow!
Yeah.
Oh, Mary
And I'll be texting her, you okay? You mad? What's wrong?
Yeah.
Oh
We
my
lost
God.
one of our females in the building. She left our studio yesterday.
She's
and
dead to me.
She's dead to all of us. We miss her dearly. But I've got to come up. I've got to come to the bar with something.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
I'm
because
the only female in the building except for Chris in the control room.
Mike when he's he's a little bloated. Is Howie here? Is Crash here? Is our lead analyst? Howie, there is a couple bills have been pushed through toward the House. I love how there are sunset provisions in every single tax cut, and all of a sudden, when we're trying to have a pure market without interruption from the global markets and the government, suddenly here comes the government right at the wrong time. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, first things first, Mary, I think your hair is excellent.
Thank
Sully's out of
you.
line. Just not mentioning
Well
you.
done, Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah. From the safety of 3,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Another guy.
no, I
Continue,
really wanted to compare these two bills.
Well,
I think
what are they first? Talk about it first.
Yeah. So first we've got the corporate landlords, the Stop Wall Street Landlords Act.
Yeah.
So since 2008, there's been a whole bunch of institutional investors buying up low-priced homes and either renting them out or flipping them. And it's gotten to the point where institutions now own 18% of homes and over a quarter, 26% of affordable homes. So in a market like that, you have a whole neighborhood owned by corporate landlords. What's going to happen to rent?
Well, it's a great point
problem
because
there.
you saw private equity firms buying not just low-priced homes, neighborhoods, and suddenly in your neighborhood, you got to rent. If you own all of it, you can control the inventory, and that's price controls with the Department of Justice. So what's the end result? What are they asking for on the bill?
Yeah, I mean, there's several versions of the bill, but the most popular one, the one that's gotten the farthest through committee, is a version that would just end tax breaks. You wouldn't be able to get a mortgage as easily like you can for most homes. And all the benefits of home ownership tax-wise go away. That's basically what they're trying to say. There are other versions that say you straight up can't do it if you're a fund over $100 million.
Stay there, because have you ever thought that we could sell our homes and just take that money and invest it and not have to worry about property taxes or maintaining the home or any of the other stuff that goes along with home ownership?
Often.
There is a school of thought that says don't buy a home, use the money and buy equities and not have to worry about all the expenses. We'll talk more about that.
Big Biz Show rolls on here inside the beautiful Loft 100 studios. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, we're coming live from Southern California. Hope you guys are having a great day. We certainly are. Costa and Marybird Godwin with you. That music you hear is from the Day Trader Quattro.
Yep.
As we like to say, the best in the business. It's another special edition. It's called Nunya, when it's just Mary and myself holding down the con, driving the bus, as they say. Our financial analyst, our market analyst, expert, Howie Font, is with us here. Howie, can we say that the pain has subsided for the moment, as far as the markets are concerned, with all the double? Isn't it bad luck if you go double cross fingers? Doesn't it have to just be one? This is really the important discussion.
They don't cancel each other out.
Okay.
What if you knock on wood and spit 3 times?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just worried about it cancel out. Okay,
Step on a crack.
Pain-wise, are we kind of just gonna?
Yeah,
be
so
okay for a while?
we have been drifting. I mean, even as I look at the week's market movements, we were worried that we were going to kind of have like a Black Monday, like
Right.
Referencing the Black Tuesday, the 80s. Basically, nobody knows. We've avoided another one of those big catastrophic 3-day spreads of 9% down.
Yes.
But could it happen again? It very easily could. We have not gotten a stable state recovery yet. We don't know if we're going to go back up to where we were. We don't know if we're going to fall anymore. And I know it sounds like I'm being tedious, but it really is, kind of shocking that we haven't arrived at one of those levels, or that we're not still falling, or we're not already back to where we were before. We saw after the election, for example, how quickly the market as a whole makes decisions on, the new facts on the ground.
Hey, Howie, is it just the tariff talk? I mean, not just because it's a big deal, but are there other factors that are, that we're looking at that are impacting the markets, or is it pretty much, this tariff talk and all the uncertainty with it?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been hesitant to say what I think about how the tariffs were implemented, but I do think that there's a lot to saying the tariffs were just one market shock. There's a lot of leverage. We already knew that the market was overpriced, that it was valuing companies way too highly. So we had a market shock that shook out all of the borrowed money. It's called margin out of the economy, out of the market rather. And then the other thing that it did was create uncertainty around inflation, which means we're not going to have any more interest rate cuts, which means that's how it's affecting. So it's not the tariffs in and of itself. It's the lack of interest rate cuts that are now not going to happen in all likelihood. And it's, that we had all this borrowed money in the economy that has now been shaken out in the last couple days.
Howie, last time I was in New York City, I saw some hedge fund guys walking down the street, literally with bags of gold on their shoulders, walking over to houses to settle their debt. Some hedge funds are settling their debt with physical gold.
Yeah, so part of what happens when you have such a large drawdown in the economy is, these hedge funds, they borrow money to make their returns even higher because they're not making enough money,
Yeah, of course.
So when we had this drawdown, we had the largest margin calls from some of these hedge funds that we've seen since the Lehman Brothers in 2008. And that meant that the banks basically got to peruse around all their assets and say, I want one of these, one of these, one of these. And one of the things that they took, which is kind of hilarious and not really done, and it shows how the banks are, thinking about the economy, they took the hedge funds' physical gold. They took the bullion. They grabbed, the bars of gold and took custody. So that was kind of a wild story. I'm glad you mentioned that.
That's like George Lucas holding on to the, what do you call it? The
lightsaber?
The advertise? No, not the.
That merchandising rights.
The merchandising rights for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, you guys go ahead and keep the tickets. Yeah, just give me the merchandising rights. It's probably not going to do anything anyhow.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess there's not gonna be a sequel, is there? No, it's fine.
No.
Hey, I wanted to ask, I guess there was some good news also with the 10-year bond that jumped. What is that? What is that? We need some good news to talk about that.
Yeah, so the long bond, the 10-year bond, is the rate that mortgages are based off of, credit lines, a lot of loans. So it's an important rate, and it kind of shows the measure of health that the bond market thinks for the U.S. economy. So, for example, if people are dumping bonds for a 10-year period of time, it means that in 10 years, they don't think the economy is going to do that great. They don't want to hold something that goes out all that way. They'll buy something that's more short term. So if you have a lower bond, then that's not a really good economic sign for our future. Maybe it doesn't say anything about our present, but our future is what it speaks to. It is good for the government though, because that means they can issue debt at lower interest rates and they don't have to pay as much interest. But that trade is usually not worth making. So I was really excited to see that instead of the long bond going from 3.9 going lower, it went all the way up to 4.2. That means that there's still people that believe in the U.S. market, and that coincided with the stock market recovering back a little bit from its lows on Tuesday.
Howie Font's our Big Biz Show market analyst. Howie, we know, like when you have a stock market crash, let's say the great crash, where you couldn't walk down Wall Street because you might get hit from someone jumping out of the buildings when, fortunes were absolutely just lost. And we know how that creates a ripple effect, and it affects every walk of life. Are these tariffs having that same type of ripple effect? Is it worse than we think it is, or is it not as bad?
Well, I think you're right to think about the global impact. And that's exactly, tariffs have to do with global trade. We're very interconnected, just the US by itself, very interconnected, important part of the world. But trade is it defines our bonds. So when we have an event like this, it's going to affect the whole world. One of the things that's really interesting to note, though, is as much as I've, kind of talked about the impact on U.S. markets, we, like always, do way, way better than everybody else in the market and in the economy. Like, we've been very lucky. We had a great COVID recovery, but we did well here, too. So I have, I think, a breakdown of how countries did. I think this is from Monday, and we had our recovery, so we were up 0.7. Japan's market was down 8%. The EU was down 5%. Hong Kong, Korea, Mexico, they're all down, and that was when we started our recovery. So we do have that kind of advantage, and that's important to note, just to give everyone a little more context.
In the converse, though, if we start, and there's a list for you. I'm glad I don't live in TSE. What does TSE stand for? Is that Taiwan?
Taiwan Stock Exchange. Yeah.
Okay. Conversely, though, if we start seeing an uptick and things kind of get back to normal and stuff like that, I'm assuming, like they say, rising tide lifts all ships. Do these then see a reciprocal positive effect?
Yeah. Yes, but ironically, in capital markets, the rule is a rising tide does lift all ships, but it lifts it lowers the U.S. less and it lifts them more. So we're at the top of the wave perpetually somehow. So that's the mental model most people should be using to think about it. We are lucky, and that has to do a lot with our international position.
So lucky. And even when you look at the size of the Chinese economy, the biggest capitalist communists on the face of the earth, do they look at what we're doing and just think, doesn't matter, we're just going to keep on plunging along like we have? I know that it's somewhat of a spitting contest now between the United States and China when it comes to the tariffs. Do you think they buckle?
Buckle, they definitely fight back. That is the million-dollar question, Mike. I think that's really important to think about. It definitely hurts them, right? So they send us $500 billion worth of stuff every year. That really matters to them. They send about $3.3 trillion out to the entire world. $500 billion of that goes to the United States by itself. So our relationship is the largest, and it means the most to them. But this means that they have to now go try and partner with the Europeans more, or with the Indians, or with Africa. I mean, they have to try and shore this up. And one of the things that, I talked about on a previous show was by doing this all at once, kind of less organized fashion, we could have gotten our house together with Mexico and Canada, and then we could have gone to Europe and done a round of that. And then once we were all on the same side, we could have gone to China. But now China and the EU are working together to see how can we deal with these tariffs.
Big B Show market analyst Howie Font, assuaging your fears and making you feel better every single time he joins us. Right, Mary?
Right.
Howie, thanks, brother. From the Loft 100 studios, Big B Show rolls on wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Thank you so much for being along for the ride. Mary Godwin, Costa here with you. Another edition of None Your Business.
Rocking out with these guys. We got a new song today.
Day Trader Quattro killing it as they always do. Joining us right now, Mary, he has quickly become one of our favorites.
Love
He's
him.
the founder and CEO of Horizon Aircraft. Of course, their ticker symbol, HOVR. And this guy is, he's a former fighter pilot. He's done a lot of things. He's a pilot, and he's got something that we all want.
Yes, and it makes me feel like the Jetsons. Like, I feel like
He
the
really
Jetsons is coming into our lives very soon.
He's bringing the Jetsons
and
to
I
life.
love it. You guys need to learn that theme song.
Yeah.
Hey, Brandon, welcome back.
Good to see you again, Brandon. How are you?
Great to see you folks. Really appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Hey, do me a favor. I don't know if we've ever asked you this before, the times you've been on the Big Biz Show, but the current aircraft that you're working on, and we'll talk about, what's coming down the road. How long is it taking you to get to where this is your quote unquote finished product for the moment?
Yeah, so it's taken a couple of years to get to where we are now with a large scale prototype that's actually flying that you see, on your videos there, which is a pretty exciting milestone.
Right.
And now we're working on the full scale aircraft. So in 24 months from now, we will have a full scale technical demonstrator. That's a 6-passenger and 1 pilot, 6,500-pound beast of an airplane ready to start flight testing. From there, we'll already be into the certification at that point. And then another couple of years, and we'll be cranking them off the production line.
And how many passengers can fit in the one? I see one behind your head there.
Yeah, exactly. So 6 passengers in the back.
That's 6.
And 1 pilot up front, which is pretty unique in the marketplace. There's a lot of 4-place and 5-place, but ours is 6, gusting 7 sort of people in the back, which is really nice.
Brandon, with this type of vehicle, and you have talked about it on past visits with here on the Big Biz Show, but the absolute, I guess, endless applications for an aircraft that powerful, that reliable, but still that small and kind of able to get into those quote unquote nooks and crannies that a bigger aircraft's not available to get into.
Well, it's a great point. So essentially you have a helicopter type capability, so it can take off and land vertically. All it needs is a helipad of any type or a parking lot, etc. And so you can take off and land from anywhere virtually. But when you're traveling en route, you're going about twice as fast as a helicopter, and you're saving about 75%. So 75% less cost per unit mile than a helicopter. So, for any mission where you think a helicopter that flies twice as fast and is 75% cheaper per unit distance is going to be useful, and there you go. So take medical services, for example. So imagine, heaven forbid your family's in an accident, you're all okay, but, someone needs to get medevaced to a hospital. One of these things can show up and get one of your loved ones to a hospital in literally half the time at, again, 25% of the cost. And so, and extend that into other emergency medical services, transporting critical radioactive isotope cancer drugs or organs from hospital to hospital, and then extend that out to disaster relief type missions where, heaven forbid, a big storm system goes through, knocks out all the power. Our aircraft is hybrid electric, so it can operate independent of any electrical grid, and you can get these aircraft to location to start saving lives and start helping people in, again, half the time and in much lower cost than a helicopter would be.
Brandon Robinson, founder CEO of Horizon Aircraft, ticker symbol is HOVR.
Hey, Brandon, speaking of the medical usage, because you were talking about it could fit 6 passengers, but then can it also be easily transferred into, like an emergency with a bed and the equipment that you would need, like in an ambulance has?
Yeah, so great question. As a hybrid electric aircraft, first of all, it has the power generation on board to be able to support all that equipment very easily.
Wow.
We've designed the cabin, again, now that it's 6 people in the back, the cabin is also large enough, and we've insured that to house all of the equipment, a stretcher, 2 emergency medical technicians, paramedics, if you will, that can look after an injured patient, and all the support equipment. So it's perfect for a medical evacuation mission. We've designed it to be perfect for that mission. And we've got a lot of special engineering under the hood for that.
Brandon, what's the altitude max, or is there a set altitude that this aircraft is going to do the best at?
Now, like in theory, it's a really powerful machine. It can go pretty high and pretty far. We've limited it operationally to 10,000 feet because it's unpressurized, which means that you'll be very comfortable in the sort of 5,000 to 8,000 foot range. It can go up to 10,000 feet, and that's very normal for a machine of this size.
What there's obviously other people, other businesses in your space, but you are heads and shoulders above all that competition. What is it that sets you guys apart from the pack?
Well, we like to think of ourselves as complementary as well, but so back up maybe 3 or 4 years, having a hybrid electric system, so a gas burning engine on board that leverages, gas is still about 30 to 40 times as energy dense as even the best batteries. Having a gas-powered engine on board was less than popular. And so most of the people in our sort of sector went all electric. Fast forward 4 years, and the realities of having an all-electric architecture for a flying machine are starting to become pretty challenging for some folks, and ranges are shrinking.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong, these folks will do great work in the 0 to 50 mile range, but our aircraft having a hybrid electric power system, so think, again, gas engine on board, can go 5 to 10 times further, fly twice as fast, and carry a lot more stuff, whereas the other aircraft are carrying a lot of batteries on board, so they have to carry less stuff, unfortunately, and are limited to those shorter ranges. So instead of intra-city, so between a skyscraper and a skyscraper within a city, we can go between cities at a regional scale, so up to 500 miles quite easily. And at our speed, that's only going to be a couple-hour trip. So take a 15-hour car ride and compress it down to a couple-hour or even less plane trip. And that opens up a lot of interesting regional transportation opportunities.
And can you talk to us a little bit about any challenges that you're facing going into commercialization, and what the next 2 years or so are looking like? And can pilots just easily certify and become able to fly your aircraft if they're used to what we have now?
Yeah, so a lot of challenges, but with each challenge, there's a lot of opportunities, right? So one of the challenges that all these companies face, like ours does, is certification. Now, again, getting the Wayback Machine and go back to 2021, there was an open question of whether some of these architectures could even be certified to begin with. Fast forward to 2025, now a bunch of great work by the likes of Joby and Archer and some of the front runners on the all-electric side. As it turns out, they've spent a lot of money and they've done a lot of lobbying, and the FAA and other regulatory bodies have agreed on a certification framework. So now the question is not if these aircraft can be certified, it's only a matter of when, which is nice. We get to take advantage of that as a second mover. We walk into a space that's very well known now from a regulatory structure, and we have an easier and I say clear path to certification, which is nice. So that's on the airframe side. Now on the pilot side, another really great question. And the answer is nobody knows quite yet. But there are a lot of, again, opportunities for the FAA and for Transport Canada and a lot of the regulatory bodies to do something good. It could go all the way from maybe just having a vertical endorsement on your commercial ticket from a pilot's license perspective. I hold an airline transport pilot's license. Maybe I go to Horizon Aircraft and I learn to fly the vertical portion and get checked out on the type of aircraft, and I get a little vertical endorsement on my ticket that says you can fly this aircraft in the vertical mode. Ours flies like a normal airplane for 98% of the mission. So what that means is it is completely flying just like a normal aircraft. You can see it in the background. Wings are closed. I've flown the demonstrator, the smaller, and I want to be one of the first people to fly the large one.
He's Brandon Robinson, founder, CEO of Horizon Aircraft, ticker symbol HOVR, as Mary likes to say, bringing the Jetsons to life.
I love it.
That is the Day Trader Quattro, a quarter of the world-famous Sullivan Band. Of course, Costa, Maryburg, Godwin with you. Special edition of the Big Biz Show. We call it None Your Business. We will tell you what we're going to talk about. You will listen, and you will learn, and you will sit there quietly.
Today's episode brought to you by Broadway.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Can I tell you about my trip to the Museum of Broadway? Because there's a whole new Museum of Broadway.
Please do, real fast before we get to our good buddy Alon Goren.
I got to see the candlesticks from Les Mis, the actual candlesticks, Evita's gown. I mean, this thing is the best. Should I go on?
Do it. Do it.
Hey,
Yeah, please.
our next guest is probably extraordinarily fascinated by this.
No, you know, as brilliant as Alon Goren is, he probably can sit here and
Let's ask him
talk
what his
till he's
favorite musical
blue
is.
in the face.
Let's
Of course,
ask him.
Alon Goren, founding partner of Draper Goren Blockchain. He's the guy who gets us more learned on crypto and blockchain and stuff like that. And it's always great to have him back here on the Big Biz Show. Alon, my friend, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, are you a Broadway musical aficionado by any chance? Please say no.
My daughter loves musicals, so I watch The Greatest Showman with her. I try to convince her that The Lorax is a great musical.
Yes,
and,
Lorax is a good one, actually. I agree.
Okay.
But,
Well,
but
I
I
need to
know
talk to
nothing.
your
I know
daughter.
nothing other than sounds great. This is fun. You know.
All right, your credentials check out. Okay, you're
Well, your
an
daughter
expert.
sounds really great, so
Yeah.
I'd like to meet her.
Alon, before we talk about where crypto and the blockchain and things like that are going, what has been your assessment of what has happened with the markets the last week and how it's affecting the area of life you're in?
Yeah, you know, I think that most people aren't. Actually, I'd say the most average person doesn't feel affected on day to day, but knows something is coming, or at least that's how it feels for a lot of us.
Sure.
And I think that, you know, if you are holding a lot of crypto, or if you're holding a lot of stocks and things like that, you know, you're just seeing fear firsthand, right? So when people are scared, they're not going to be able to pay their bills, they sell their most liquid assets first. And crypto, stocks, those are your most liquid asset. They're the easiest ones to sell, fastest way to get cash in your pocket to pay the mortgage. So, you know, we're seeing that play from hour to hour, right? There's rumors tariffs are going away, tariffs are coming, tariffs are going away,
whiplash.
and you're just watching.
Yeah.
And you know who wins? You know who wins? The exchanges,
Of course.
because there's higher volume than ever before, and they get fees no matter which way the stocks are going.
Unbelievable. Well, and it's, you know, a great man always says, you know, stock market is run on two things, fear and greed. And it's not the economy. And that guy's name, I think, is Sully. He's on some show that I listen to once in a while.
Whatever. He's not here though, so we can.
I know.
He's not.
This is a better show anyway.
We're driving the bus, buddy.
That's right.
No, but you know, and Sully raises that point, but you're right. Everybody goes to the immediate Chicken Little. Sky's falling. It's all over. You know, I'm looking at my account, et cetera, where breathe, take a step back. And it's easy for someone to say who's not really feeling the financial bite, but maybe there's somebody out there who thought, I'm throwing it all in crypto, man. I'm just, it's the way, nothing's ever going to happen to it. And you might be freaking out a little bit.
Yeah, well, you know, I think we all would be if we did exactly, you know, if you kind of blindly just go crypto, you know, I heard of Doge, I heard of this,
Yes.
I'm gonna go blindly in. But I think that, like with everything else, people who are really long tend to be the greatest winners, right?
Yep.
Most people aren't winning in Vegas, right? They go, they're having a good time. Now, if you treat the stock market the same way, you're probably also not going to win. But if you are, people who famously, right, like family members, friends of yours you saw growing up, the people who had the wealth, they were the people who were long, who bought real estate, who held on to things for long periods of time. And I think that's going to happen now. Yes, there's people manipulating the crap out of everything.
Yep.
The average person amongst us isn't going to win that game. But if you really believe in something and you hold it long term and you look at it as an industry, right? Everybody talked about the internet bubble popping. People have now talked about the crypto bubble popping. But if you told somebody when the internet bubble popped that every hot dog stand would be connected to every single person's phone, because every single person's phone would have the internet on it, and there'd be no such thing as an internet company in the future, that every company would be an internet company, they'd be like, oh, who sold you that idea?
Right.
You're probably down 99%, right? What an idiot. So that's where we are in crypto, but that's where we are with a lot of things, right? With these tariffs and things, everyone's freaking out. And these things take time. I don't know if it's the right move. My politics don't line up with almost any party almost at any time. But do I believe we're all going to be okay? And I think if we're, like you said, playing it calm and you play the long game, I think we're all going to be okay.
Oh, I love that. I'm so happy you're here. But so, Alon, I want to talk a little bit about, U.S. regulatory, advancements in the space of crypto, because it was this thing that there has been no regulation. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but where are we with that in this digital asset industry? Because it does seem to be growing by leaps and bounds, and it seems like we do need some regulation, yeah?
Yeah, and I love the term digital asset, because that kind of implies that all assets that become digital will become a digital asset, right? Like, if you invest in my company, one day that should be more digital than it is today, right? And right now, people lump in digital assets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, things like that. But in general, there are people tokenizing and digitizing real estate, tokenizing and digitizing startups and things like that. And the biggest problem was we were in this gray area, in this no man's land when it came to regulation. Regulation, at least we're being told that it's changing now. Previous to this administration, we were kind of in this wait and see regulation by enforcement thing, which is kind of was an excuse to not come up with any regulation. They would just be like, we know fraud when we see it. And then when they would then slap somebody on the wrist, we would go, okay, you can't do that. And then, when somebody else got in trouble, okay, you can't do that. But nobody told us what we can do. And one of the things this administration did do is say, here's a bunch of things that we have no interest in coming after, because we want this innovation in America. And for the first time ever, we've talked about it on the show, I was seeing young Americans leave the country to start their companies just because of that gray area. They weren't doing anything shady or wrong. There are people doing shady things. They don't care what country they're in, right? But the people who are doing the right thing were leaving the country to start their businesses. And not that I am so nationalistic that I think every company should be based in America, but I'm an American, and I don't want my friends and family to feel like they need to leave the country to start a good business. This is the land of opportunity, right? This is why my parents came to this country. This is why most of our ancestors came to this country. Let's continue to be the land of opportunity. So that's what's kind of happening now. Regulatory wise, they're making it clear that they're not going to go after people who are doing the right thing, who aren't defrauding people, who aren't causing problems. And I think that we're going to see a lot of changes. I mean, even the crypto price websites, and even our own portfolio company like Lunar Crush, where you get data on cryptocurrencies, have sections of their site now that say, cryptocurrencies made in America, right? And that's going to expand to other digital assets, like I mentioned, those digitized real estate, digitized private companies, and things like that, where they're actually saying, if you participate in American-made cryptocurrencies, we're going to actually give you favorable tax benefits and things like that, which is another way to encourage investment and trade in America, which I'm all for.
Alon Goren is the founding partner of Draper Goren Blockchain. Always great to talk with him. Website is dgb.vc. Alon, President Trump addressed, oh my God, look, my Sharpie's orange. President Trump addressed the Digital Asset Summit and talk about the urging Congress to pass the stable coin bill.
Yeah, so, stable coins are like de facto the digital dollar now, right? So stable coin, at least the term is supposed to imply that the thing that's backing that coin actually exists and it's stable. And most of the stable coins that people use, like if you use Coinbase, for example, you use something called USDC. A company called Circle, supposedly, actually not supposedly, they have audited statements that are available public, have $1 in a bank account for every USDC token that exists online. Yeah. So they basically made a digital dollar. And what the current administration is saying is that they don't want to have a CBDC, which stands for central bank digital currency, but they kind of by default through these private companies do.
Yeah.
But essentially they want to make sure that there's regulation amongst these things so that they are considered kosher by the government, by the exchanges and groups, and they actually make transacting on the dollar fast and instant, because the current rails aren't fast and instant. This is. And so they're creating regulation to make that innovation happen in the United States.
Alon Goren, founding partner, Draper Goren Blockchain, their website, dgb.vc. Alon, thank you so much for your time today. All right, keep it here. Much more to come. It is the Big Biz Show. See you in just a second. That is Sullivan, missing only Sullivan as the Big Biz Show rolls on. Live from the Loft 100 studios. Whoever watching or listening, thanks for being along for the ride. Costa and Marybert Godwin with you today. Another special edition of Nunya. Nunya Business is what we call the Big Biz when Sully and Greg are not with us. And the birthday celebration.
The birthday month continues. Well,
So
because
does it-
I was
okay,
actually,
is there-
here's the deal, is I was actually at a dance competition over the weekend with
Did
my
you win?
daughters.
Oh, your
My-
daughters, okay.
Yes, I would have won, but and so it was fun, but I didn't, it was not, it wasn't all about me. So
So it was boring?
No, so we're going on a little vacation,
Oh,
and we're going to New York, and we're going to some theater shows. So that's going to be my actual,
The culmination.
a whole full week of birthday celebrating in New
birthday.
York. Yeah.
All right, very fun. When are you going? Like next week or
Soon,
something?
yeah.
Okay, good for you.
So I'll be gone.
Yeah. I know I speak on behalf of everybody with Loft 100 Studios when I say we are so glad it's coming to an end. Oh my God. You know what's not coming to an end is the price of gold. Look at that segue.
Good work. Good work.
Yeah, thank you very much. I get paid the big
we
bucks
need it
for
even
that.
more right now, I think.
We do. Joining us is Mr. Alon Hibbard, precious metals and alternative money specialist. His company is Gold Silver. Website goldsilver.com. Alon, welcome to the Big Biz Show. We certainly appreciate you jumping on and talking some gold with us. How are you, sir?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, before we talk about prices of gold and where to go and get gold and stuff like that, is it finite as far as the supply that man knows of in the world, or do we really have a true gauge of how much gold there is if we haven't really been able to explore every single square inch of the earth to find it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And actually, your question sort of hints at why gold is even a store of value in the first place. So I would argue that the supply of gold is essentially infinite, but for practical purposes, it's capped by our ability to go out and get new gold. So the reason that gold is a store of value is because some of it is accessible to us, and that's relatively easy to get.
Sure.
And some other gold in the future is going to be a lot harder to get. We're going to have to spend much more energy to get it. And so as a result, anyone who has kept gold until that time is going to be able to sell it at that new higher price, representing a higher cost of getting new units. So the supply of gold is essentially limited, and that's what makes it a store of value.
Hey, Alon, I want to ask, in this climate of, the market is unsure, what's going on with, all the things are kind of uncertain in question. So, there's cryptocurrency out there. All the things are happening. Inflation. Now, how does that affect gold and silver? Does it bode well for your industry?
Yes, absolutely, it bodes well. And I think that's why gold and silver have both had fantastic years recently, outperforming the S&P, for example. And so, yeah, whenever you have a period of uncertainty, people start to cling to something they can control, something they can get their hands on, something they know isn't going to disappoint them down the road. And if you look at so much of what's happening in the world, we sort of have a crisis of leadership really everywhere. And that accounts for leaders of countries, leaders of other institutions who have, broadly speaking, either been negligent, to put it nicely, or outright corrupt, right, in the worst of cases. And that's across the globe. So, of course, there are standout exceptions, but broadly speaking, we have a failure of leadership. And when that happens, people turn to something that doesn't have a leader. So gold doesn't have a leader. There's no one in charge of all the gold. And same with silver, for example, and same with Bitcoin. So if you're unhappy with your leadership, if there's uncertainty about how they're going to behave, what kind of rules they're going to enact, whether or not they're going to enforce those rules, and if they're going to be good or bad for you and your family, you can really just take a lot of uncertainty out of the equation by going to something that doesn't have a leader, that can't be corrupted. So that's gold, silver, and Bitcoin. So that's really good for our industry.
Alon Hibbard, precious metals alternative money specialist. His company Gold Silver. Their website is goldsilver.com. Alon, what's the craziness going over in London? What are they experiencing with gold?
Yeah, they're getting rid of it, basically. So in London, they're selling a lot of their gold. They're selling a lot of the gold off the LBMA, moving that to Switzerland, refining it for bars that are acceptable in the United States, and shipping them to New York. And the reason for that is that there's one or more large investors in the United States, and we could speculate who that might be. It might even be the federal government, who are going to take physical delivery of gold sometime in the very near future. So the gold stockpiles on the COMEX have gone from roughly 10 million ounces to 40 million ounces. It's gone up by a factor of 4 in just a few months. This is basically unprecedented. It happened during COVID, but that was the first time. So now it's happening again. So that means somebody is taking a lot of gold in physical delivery, and it's coming from London. So we don't know who that is. It could be the U.S. government preparing for an audit of Fort Knox. We could speculate about that. But either way, it means the price of gold is moving up, and that's probably going to continue for the foreseeable future.
So that segues into my next question, which is about silver. I was just mentioning my kids' dance competitions. Silver is below gold in the medal or the awards category, the Olympics everywhere, in dance categories too. So, but right now, silver is looking like an attractive buy. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. So while gold is at its all-time high, over $3,000 an ounce, silver is still below its all-time high. So you could think of it as being on sale. It's almost like a 33% discount. So if you like the product, it's better to buy it on sale, and that's definitely silver right now. And historically, silver outperforms gold during these bull runs. So it does ultimately rise a lot more in price. However, you pay the price of volatility. So if you're not happy seeing the ups and downs day to day in your portfolio, maybe silver isn't a good fit for you. Also, you tend to have to wait longer to experience those gains, but they are bigger over time. So I think gold and silver are both attractive right now. I have both in my portfolio, and they're both good picks for most people.
Alon, if I go to goldsilver.com, can I physically buy bullion from you?
Or a big brick.
Or a big brick, or a nose ring, or something like that?
You can, yes, if you go to goldsilver.com, you can buy coins and bars of gold and silver. They're all investment grade. So you're not going to get scammed. You're not going to buy anything that looks like it's, investment grade gold, but then it's actually only a tiny fraction of gold. No, we don't do that on our website at all. There's no collectibles. You don't have to worry about numismatic value. It's all investment grade stuff. And you can even get stuff for your IRA if you do it before April 15th.
Will you do me a favor? Will you promise to come back on our show?
Yeah.
We do not have an official Big Biz Show gold person. And what you were just able to explain to me, someone who's got nothing but cement between his ears, not gold, I'm like, all right, I know exactly what he's talking about. Yeah. Will you come back on with us, please?
I would love to. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alon Hibbard, precious metals and alternative money specialist, goldsilver.com is his website. This show has been gold because we have Sullivan in studio. We have everybody who makes the show possible behind the scenes. For Mary Bert Godwin, I'm Mike Costa. Thanks for tuning in to the Big Biz Show. We'll see you again next time.